If tomorrow every dollar you own disappeared, would you have the skills to earn it all back? That is the question that separates those who live in fear from those who walk in freedom. Because money, when chased, runs faster than you can imagine. But when you carry within you the kind of skill that the world craves, money finds its way to your door without you even knocking. I have seen men exhaust themselves working 100 hours a week, spinning plates, running on empty, believing that more hours equals more wealth. But what they find at the end of that road is fatigue, broken health, and fleeting victories. True wealth does not respond to desperation. It responds to magnetism, the quiet pull of value that others cannot resist. Think about it. Every human being pays attention to three things: saving money, making money, or saving time. If you can master one of these, you will never be poor again. It does not matter if it is marketing, sales, accounting, or technology. What matters is the depth of your skill. In a world drowning in noise, clarity is priceless. In a world of confusion, direction is gold. The young generation grows up with artificial intelligence in their pockets. They speak the language of automation without even realizing it. Meanwhile, millions struggle to understand what AI even means. That gap between confusion and clarity is where wealth lives. If you step into that gap with skill, you become indispensable. So how do you build a skill that attracts wealth? The answer is not complicated, but it is demanding. First, you must be specific. Do not chase everything at once. Pick one area where your strength and curiosity meet the market's demand. Ask yourself, who needs help? What problem burns in their daily life? And how can I bring a solution that is simple, fast, and undeniable? Second, design a path to mastery. Do not wonder. Do not wish. Build a roadmap. 1 hour a day, every day, is enough to separate you from 95% of people who talk but never act. In 12 weeks of focused learning, you can acquire a skill that places you in the top few percent of practitioners. The world has already solved most of the problems you face. Thousands of people have documented the steps. Your task is not to reinvent knowledge. It is to simplify it until you can execute it with confidence. Execution is the bridge. You do not learn by watching. You learn by doing. Too many people drown in tutorials, in books, in podcasts, never realizing that real mastery comes from action. Watch for an hour. Practice for 2. That is the equation that transforms theory into wealth. Third, commit to mastery. Nobody wants to work with a dabbler. Nobody pays a fortune to someone who is curious but not committed. People pay top price to those who have decided, to those who declare with their actions that they will be among the best in the world at what they do. Mastery is not about talent. It is about time and consistency. The harder the path, the more valuable the prize. And when you see difficulty, do not flinch. Smile, because difficulty is the filter that removes those who are unwilling. The mountain is steep, but that is why the view belongs only to the few who climb. The truth is simple. If you want to create wealth that feels unfair, like you are bending the rules of the game, you must first bend yourself into a person of value. Success is not chased, it is attracted. Skills are magnets, and the stronger they are, the stronger the pull. Now ask yourself, what skill are you willing to give your blood, your sweat, your discipline to master? What skill will you carry like a torch into the dark, lighting the way for others until they cannot help but pay you for the fire you bring? There is a difference between a man who dabbles and a man who decides. The dabbler touches many things but leaves no mark. The master chooses one thing, goes deep, and transforms it into a legacy. The world is filled with dabblers, men and women who collect hobbies, half-finished projects, ideas that never mature. But the world rewards the few who dare to go all in. Nothing valuable has ever been easy. Diamonds are not found on the surface. They are buried deep under pressure and time. If everyone could pick them up from the ground, they would be worthless. Skills are the same. If they come easily, they are common. And common things never make you rich. But when a skill requires hours, days, Years of persistence, that is when its value multiplies. Imagine a craftsman shaping a violin. He spends months on a single piece of wood, carving, refining, tuning, until the sound that emerges carries the weight of centuries of tradition. People travel across oceans to hear that music, not because the wood is rare, but because the dedication is. That is the essence of mastery. Most people recoil when they hear the word hard. They imagine endless nights, sacrifices, slow progress. And yes, that is the truth. But it is also the secret. Difficulty is the price of distinction. The harder it is to master something, the fewer will endure, and the fewer who endure, the higher the value of those who do. Mastery is not just about technical skill, it is about identity. When you decide to master something, you are not simply learning, you are declaring to yourself and to the world, this is who I am. This is where I stand. From that moment on, every choice either strengthens or weakens that identity. Masters are not born. They are forged in the furnace of repetition and refusal to quit. Look at the greatest athletes, musicians, or entrepreneurs. Their secret is not genius, but devotion. They were willing to be bad long enough to become good, and good long enough to become great. While others sought comfort, they embraced discipline. While others gave excuses, they gave hours. If you want to separate yourself from the millions who remain average, you must embrace the long road. There is no shortcut to the summit. You can sprint for a while, but in the end, the mountain demands endurance. Every hour you invest, every mistake you endure, every obstacle you overcome, lays another stone on the path of mastery. This is why the wealthy and the wise look for those who are committed. They do not want someone curious about solving problems. They want someone who has made the solution their craft. The world does not pay for potential. It pays for proof. And proof comes only from mastery. The hardest part of this journey is not external. It is not the competition, the obstacles, or the lack of resources. The hardest part is internal. It is the voice that whispers you are too tired, too old, too slow, too late. That voice is the enemy of mastery, and you silence it not with words, but with action. Every day you choose to keep going, you weaken it. Every time you refuse to quit, you prove it wrong. So ask yourself today, will you be remembered as someone who touched many things lightly, or as someone who mastered one thing deeply? Will you scatter your time like dust in the wind, or will you concentrate it like the sun through a magnifying glass, burning a mark into the world that no one can ignore? Because in the end, wealth and respect do not belong to those who chase every passing trend. They belong to those who choose, who commit, who endure. Masters, not dabblers. There is a cruel trap waiting for those who do not understand value. The trap of selling their time instead of their results. It feels logical to charge for hours. You work 1 hour, you get 1 payment. But this is the slowest path to wealth, and the surest way to chain yourself to exhaustion. Because if your worth is measured in hours, the only way to earn more is to sacrifice more of your life. That is not freedom. That is a cage. Let me tell you a story. A factory machine breaks down. The owner calls an electrician. The man arrives, inspects the machine for a few minutes, takes out a small hammer, and taps one specific spot. The machine roars back to life. The owner is relieved, until he sees the invoice, $10,000. Outraged, he asks, how can 5 minutes of work cost so much? The electrician smiles and says, it is $100 for the tap, and $9,900 for knowing where to tap. This is the difference between selling time and selling results. The tap itself took seconds, but the knowledge behind it took decades. The man was not paid for minutes, he was paid for mastery. If you charge for time, you punish your own efficiency. The faster you get, the less you earn. There is no incentive to improve, no reward for innovation. But when you charge for outcomes, you are free. You can use tools, automation, teams, and still deliver value faster and better. The faster you are, the more valuable you become. That is the paradox of results. People may pay 6 figures for an hour of consulting, not because the hour itself is magical, but because the results it delivers may transform their business, their future, their legacy. They pay for condensed decades of wisdom. They pay for association, credibility, and clarity that can save them years of costly mistakes. That is the invisible weight of results. To sell results, you must first define a clear and specific problem. Do not try to be everything to everyone. If you are everything to everyone, you are nothing to anyone. Choose one problem and solve it so well that nobody else can compete. When you define the problem with clarity, the world will pay you to remove it. Second, design a process that guarantees results. Ask yourself, if I only got paid when my client achieved the outcome, how would I design this system? Suddenly, shortcuts disappear. You stop offering fluff and start building a step-by-step path that works. Results must not be vague promises. They must be predictable, repeatable, undeniable. Third, sell value, not price. Value is not always about money. It is about time saved, pain avoided, identity elevated, and the story the client tells themselves by working with you. When someone hires you, they are not just buying a solution, they are buying who they become through that process. You must position yourself in a way that amplifies that identity. This is why mastery matters. The world will pay a fortune for certainty, and certainty comes from those who have walked the path many times before. The question is not how long it took you to solve it, but how big the problem felt before you arrived. The greater the relief you provide, the greater the value. Now ask yourself, are you selling your hours, bleeding away the most precious asset you own, or are you selling your results, creating leverage that multiplies your impact and your income? Because freedom will never be found in an hourly rate. It will be found in the moment you realize that results, not time, are the true currency of wealth. There is a dangerous illusion that traps many who taste wealth for the first time. The illusion of the big pile. They believe that if they can just earn one massive sum, if they can stack money high in their accounts, then they will finally be free. But piles of cash are not freedom. They are prisons. Freedom is in the flow. I have seen men who called themselves millionaires. They made fortunes in a moment, in crypto, in stocks, in luck. They stacked their pile but soon became slaves to it. Afraid to spend, afraid to invest, staring at numbers on a screen like worshippers before an idol. They thought money had made them free, but in truth it chained them tighter than ever. Because piles do not last. They rise, they fall, they wither. True wealth is not a pile. True wealth is a river, a flow of cash that renews itself, month after month, year after year. A pile can be stolen, lost, or devalued, but a river sustains. A river gives life to everything around it. A river creates predictability, security, expansion. Think of a man who earns $1 million one time. Impressive, but fragile. Then think of another who earns $100,000 every month. In less than a year, he too is a millionaire. But unlike the first, he is not dependent on a moment. He has built a system, a structure, a rhythm. That rhythm is worth more than the pile, because it can be repeated again and again. This is why the wise do not obsess over totals. They do not care how big the pile looks on paper. They care about how much flow the asset produces. They ask, how many streams feed into my river, and how strong are they? Because with flow comes confidence. With flow comes resilience. A business does not die because of lack of profit. It dies because it runs out of cash. You cannot pay employees with accounting theory. You cannot feed your family with projected growth. You need flow, not just numbers. So what does this mean for you? Stop chasing big wins. Stop gambling on one-hit wonders. Instead, build systems that deliver predictable streams of value. Focus on recurring revenue, subscriptions, retainers, partnerships that pay month after month. Focus on habits and disciplines that make income steady instead of sporadic. If someone took everything from me tomorrow, Every dollar, every asset, I would not fear, because I have the skills to build flow again. And that is real freedom. Not the pile you protect, but the river you can rebuild. So ask yourself today, are you chasing piles that make you anxious and fragile? Or are you building rivers that flow with stability and power? Wealth is not a mountain of coins. Wealth is a river that never runs dry. One of the fastest ways to destroy your own growth is to obsess over the success of others. I call it the disease of comparison. You sit in a room, and instead of focusing on your craft, you whisper about how much someone else is making, how fast they are rising, how far they have gone. You count their money like a desperate accountant of envy, but when asked how much you earn today, this week, this month, you have no answer. This is not just a distraction. It is poison. Because every moment you spend looking at someone else's scoreboard is a moment you are not improving your own. You cannot run a race with your head turned sideways. You will stumble, you will fall, and you will never reach the finish line. I remember a man I once met. Within seconds of conversation, he began telling me the revenue of other people in the room. This person makes millions a month. That person just had a massive launch. Did you hear about so-and-so? He knew every rumor, every headline, every statistic about others. But when I asked him about his own numbers, silence. He did not know his daily revenue, his monthly trend, his yearly growth. He was a spectator in the game he was supposed to be playing. Here is the truth. The people you envy, the ones you put on pedestals, they were once just as broke, just as lost, just as unsure as you. What changed? They stopped counting other people's pockets and started counting their own. They tracked their progress, refined their process, measured their growth. They built instead of envied. That is the rhythm of success. Stop comparing your chapter 3 to someone else's chapter 13. You do not know when they started. They may have been practicing for a decade before you even stepped on the stage. Do not measure your beginning against their middle. It is a thief of joy and worse, a thief of focus. So what should you do? First, track your own money daily. Look at your accounts, your cash position, your expenses, your savings. Do not bury your head in the sand. Face reality with courage, because clarity is power. Second, review weekly pillars. Every Friday, ask yourself, how did I do in the area of money? Did I make progress? Did I invest wisely? Did I create opportunities? If your score is low, commit to one action that will raise it next week. Small steps compound, and compounding is the 8th wonder of the world. Third, sit down monthly and do a personal profit and loss statement. It may sound boring, but discipline creates freedom. When you see where your money flows, you take control. When you take control, you build wealth. Wealth does not grow in confusion. It grows in clarity. The truth is, the world will try to distract you. Social media will shove success stories in your face, numbers without context, lifestyles without backstory. Do not fall for it. Most of what you see is theater, designed to impress but not to instruct. Your life is not a performance for others. It is a mission for yourself. So ask yourself today, are you spending your energy counting the money of others? Or are you taking responsibility for your own? Are you a spectator clapping for another man's victory? Or are you an athlete training for your own? Because wealth is not built by comparison. It is built by focus. And the man who focuses on his own financials will one day become the man others whisper about. There are men who spend their lives chasing money as if it were the finish line. They treat it as the destination, the trophy, the final applause. But money is not the goal, it is the tool. And if you forget that, you will work yourself into chains of gold, rich in numbers, poor in life. I once knew a man whose father ran a food truck. For decades, he worked 6 days a week, driving long hours, cooking, selling, collecting cash. He saved every bill, hiding it in his house, proud of his growing pile. To his son, he looked rich. But in truth, he had only built himself a low-paying job, shackled to endless hours and constant labor. He had the money, but he did not have the life. Money does not change who you are. It amplifies you. If you are generous, it makes you more generous. If you are fearful, it makes you more fearful. The power is not in the money, but in how you use it. The wise do not hoard money, they deploy it. They use it to buy back their time, to multiply their impact, to build leverage that frees them to focus on what matters. Freedom is not in your bank account. It is in your calendar. The real question is not how much you have saved, but how many hours of your day belong to you. If you are still trapped in a life where every hour is consumed by obligations you hate, you are not free, no matter what your balance sheet says. Use money to hire, to delegate, to remove the weight of tasks that drain you. Build a team that allows you to spend time where you create the most value, where your gifts shine brightest. Buy back hours so you can invest them in love, in creation, in the work that only you can do. This is why I pay people to manage, to organize, to execute. Every hour they give back to me is an hour I can spend inspiring, building, or simply living. That is wealth. Not the number in the account, but the time I control with it. Most entrepreneurs miss this. They work themselves to death, chasing numbers, wearing busyness as a badge of honor. But what is the point of riches if you cannot breathe, if you cannot rest, if you cannot be with the people you love? The graveyard is filled with men who worked themselves into an early end, thinking money was the goal. The truth is, the only way to make money feel like cheating is to make the process feel like play. If what you do drains your soul, you will burn out. But if what you do feels like play, if it fills you with energy, then others will look at you and say, "How is this man being paid so much for something he enjoys?" That is the secret. Work that feels like play but looks like work. So ask yourself today, is money your finish line, or is it your lever? Are you stacking bills for the sake of pride, or are you using money as a tool to carve out the life you dream of? Because in the end, money is not freedom. Time is freedom. And the only purpose of money is to buy you back the time to be who you truly are. There is a simple truth about wealth and growth. Most people fail not because they lack opportunity, but because they lack discipline. They waste their time watching the victories of others, scrolling through highlights that only fuel envy, instead of building victories of their own. Discipline is the antidote to envy. The man who checks his bank account daily, who tracks his actions weekly, who reviews his life monthly, he is not a slave to comparison. He is a master of his own direction. He does not wonder where his money went. He knows. He does not wait for the year to end before measuring progress. He adjusts weekly, he corrects monthly, he grows daily. That rhythm is what creates wealth. Envy, on the other hand, is lazy. It stares at the lives of others and complains. It says, why him? Why her? Why not me? Discipline asks, what did I do today? How can I improve tomorrow? Envy is passive, discipline is active. One steals your energy, the other multiplies it. This is why I've always said, do not compete with others. Compete with yesterday's version of yourself. If you did not grow today, if you did not move forward, you lost. It does not matter if someone else ran faster. Their race is not yours. Your race is against your own potential, against the voice that whispers you can rest, you can quit, you can wait. Think of the farmer who plants seeds. He does not look at his neighbor's field every day to measure his worth. He focuses on watering, on protecting, on nurturing, because he knows that in time the harvest will come. And when it comes, it will not be because he envied his neighbor's crops. It will be because he tended his own with discipline. So, how do you build this discipline? First, establish daily awareness. Know exactly where you stand. Ignorance is not bliss. It is blindness. Second, commit to weekly reflection. Ask yourself, 1 to 10, how did I handle my money, my work, my health, my relationships? If you score low, choose one action to raise the score. Third, design monthly accountability. Sit down with your numbers, your goals, your actions. Honor the process, even if it feels tedious. Freedom is built on discipline, not desire. Desire burns hot but fades fast. Discipline burns steady, carrying you through seasons of drought and storms. Envy looks glamorous, but it produces nothing. Discipline looks ordinary, but it produces empires. So ask yourself today, are you living as a victim of envy, staring at others while you starve your own growth? Or are you practicing discipline, laying brick after brick until the walls of your future stand unshakable? Because the man who is disciplined does not need to count the pockets of others. He knows the only pocket that matters is his own. There is a lie that many carry all their lives. The lie that freedom is found in the number inside your bank account. They believe if they can just reach that number, then they will finally be free. But freedom does not live in numbers. Freedom lives in your calendar. The richest man can be the poorest if every hour of his day belongs to obligations he despises. And the man of modest means can be rich if his time is his own, if his days are filled with work that feels like play and nights filled with people he loves. Money is a tool, and the greatest thing it can buy is time. Time to think, to create, to love, to live. If you are still trapped in a cycle where your hours are consumed by tasks you hate, then you are not free, no matter the money you hold. This is why the wise invest not only in assets, but in leverage. They hire help, they build teams, they delegate. They do not hoard tasks as if busyness were a badge of honor. They buy back their hours. And with those hours, they invest in what multiplies their life, their relationships, their creativity, their health. Think of it this way. Every dollar you spend can either buy you another trinket, or it can buy you an hour of freedom. Which do you value more? Another object to dust, or another hour to live? Too many entrepreneurs fall into the trap of grinding endlessly, wearing exhaustion as proof of their worth. But exhaustion is not proof. It is a warning. A life spent in endless work is not a life well lived. Money without time is poverty in disguise. The truth is, your goal should not be wealth for the sake of wealth. It should be wealth that buys you choice. The choice to say no, the choice to walk away, the choice to spend the day with your child, or to travel, or to sit in silence without fear. Choice is the essence of freedom. And choice comes when money becomes your servant, not your master. Use it to build systems that support you, not enslave you. Use it to amplify your gifts, not bury them under endless labor. Use it to free yourself, so that you can become more of who you already are. So ask yourself today, does your money buy you trinkets or time? Do you own your calendar, or does it own you? Because in the end, freedom is not measured in dollars. It is measured in hours, in moments, in memories. The only true wealth is time. There is a secret that few ever discover about wealth and greatness. It is not just about skill, not just about results, not just about cash flow. It is about joy. If the work you do feels like a burden, you will eventually break. If it feels like play, you will endure, and others will wonder how you seem to win so easily. Think of the child who spends hours building with blocks. To the outside world, it looks like effort. To the child, it feels like play. That is why he continues long after others stop. Play is energy. Play is endurance. Play is the reason some rise above, while others quit halfway. The world will look at you and say, how does this man get paid so much for what he does? They do not see that for you, it is not work, it is joy. And that is the paradox. When you do what feels like play, the world often pays you the most, because they see it as work, as effort, as discipline. But do not mistake this. Play does not mean easy. The violinist who practices until her fingers bleed, the athlete who trains until his muscles ache, the entrepreneur who tests and fails again and again, they all suffer. But to them, the suffering is meaningful. It has purpose. It feels like play because the pain is tied to passion. Passion transforms labor into joy. This is why the greatest achievements are born not from obligation, but from obsession. When you are obsessed, you do not count the hours. You do not complain about the grind. You welcome it, because it is the arena where you feel most alive. So, how do you find this kind of play? First, listen to what energizes you instead of what drains you. Pay attention to when time flies, when you forget to check the clock. That is a signal. Second, align your skill with service. When your play becomes the solution to someone else's pain, the world rewards you. Third, commit to mastery in that play. Do not just dabble in what you love, dominate it. Work that feels like play, but looks like work to others. That is the formula. It is the place where your joy and the world's need intersect. And in that place, wealth flows like water. So ask yourself today, what is the work that feels like play to you? What is the thing you could spend hours on without resentment? If you can find it, master it, and connect it to the service of others, you will never again feel like you are working a day in your life. Because the only way to make money feel like cheating is to make the process feel like play. If tomorrow everything you own was stripped away, the question is not what you lost, but what remains. Do you have the skills that attract wealth? Do you have the discipline to master your craft? Do you have the courage to stop selling time and start selling results? Do you have the wisdom to build cash flow instead of chasing piles? Do you have the focus to count your own money instead of envying others? And above all, do you have the perspective to use money as a tool, to buy back your time, to make the process your joy? Freedom is not a number. It is not the car you drive, the house you live in, or the balance in your account. Freedom is the ability to wake up each morning and know that your day belongs to you, that your time is yours, your energy is yours, your choices are yours. Money is only valuable if it buys you that freedom. The world is filled with people chasing shadows. They run after numbers, after comparisons, after applause. They forget that the game of life is not about who looks richest, but about who feels most free. So here is the final truth. Stop chasing money. Start building skills that attract it. Stop measuring your worth in hours. Start delivering results that matter. Stop stacking piles. Start building rivers. Stop counting the pockets of others. Start focusing on your own growth. Stop treating money as the goal. Start treating it as the tool. And above all, find the work that feels like play. Because when your labor becomes your joy, when your days feel alive, when your time is your own, then you have already won. The game of life will always test you, but it will also reward you. It rewards those who decide to master themselves, who embrace discipline, who turn envy into energy, who use money not as chains, but as wings. So ask yourself today, are you living free or are you waiting? Because freedom will not come from waiting. It will come from building. It will come from deciding. It will come from playing the game with courage, with mastery, with joy. And when you do, the wealth you create will not just feel like success, it will feel like cheating.